Hello and welcome to MCC TV International Show. My name is John DeBeat. I'm the MCC Business Department Coordinator, and also I'm the host for this show. As we always say, we bring the best to you, to your TV screen, and we bring them here to share their stories with all of you. But before we start our show today, I would like to remind you that our show will run on the local TV station. It is live on YouTube channel for Muscatine Power and Water. And also, we usually put the show also on MCC TV International Show, also YouTube channel. Today's show is no different. Today's show and the guest on today's show is very special to all of us also here at MCC. We'd like to welcome our new MCC speech instructor, Campbell, Zach Campbell. I'm sorry, Zach, so go ahead.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Zach, would like to go back, first of all, and talk a little bit about your time before MCC, and then we come back to MCC. So first of all, I would like to talk about you growing up. Tell us stories about you, Zach.
Okay, so I am an Iowa boy through and through, born and raised in this great state. I was born in Burlington, and then I was raised in Waterloo, where I went to high school in Waterloo. I played 4 sports. I was academically involved in my local church. I was that stereotypical Midwest kid. I didn't grow up on a farm, much to the chagrin of my wife.
So no farm experience,
no,
right?
I mean, I've worked on farms, but I didn't grow up on one. When I met my now wife, she goes, "Oh, you're from Iowa. Where'd you grow up? What farm did you grow up on?" I'm like, "That's not all Iowans." So I had to, unfortunately, break that stereotype for her. So I grew up, played a lot of sports, involved in community service, the church, the Boy Scouts of America. I had a really well-rounded experience. And then I went to college at the University of Northern Iowa, where I studied communications, decided to get my master's degree, and that is the cut and dry of my life, the Cliff Notes, as they would say. Okay,
brothers, sisters in the family, or are you the only child?
Nope, I have a younger sister, well, no longer young, she's 26 now. Okay. And her husband just had a little boy in October.
Congratulations.
So I'm now an uncle, and it's amazing. He's cute. He's wonderful. His name is Oliver, and he is a bundle of joy to those
That's a lot of good feelings, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, Zach, you mentioned that you almost spent all your life in Iowa, growing up in Burlington, then moving to a different community, then moving into UNI, and so on. Tell me something about what you like the most about Iowa, or living in Iowa, or growing up in Iowa, for example.
That Midwest nice stereotype, I think, is really true. And I think Iowa gets a really bad rap for it, though, too, because we're all these nice farm kids. Well, no, there's a lot of us who grew up in the city that don't have that farm experience, or all we know is how to drive a John Deere tractor and have barn parties. No, that's not what Iowa is. Iowa's a 3.5 million people strong who work hard, who have fun, who love their communities, who love each other, who are patriotic, who are church-like, but who are also not church-like, who may have a lot of these different attitudes and opinions, but it's just a collection of individuals who I think love the communities that they grew up in, and it's just very easy to grow up in a state that is focused on its education, it's focused on its citizens, it's focused on its people, it's focused on a lot of different things that makes it great. And I love this state. That's why I also haven't moved. I've had opportunities, I've had chances. I could have left and came back. I could have left and never came back, but I've stayed.
That's good. Well, very happy to have you here with us too.
Thank you.
So, at some point in time, you said, you know, you grew up in Iowa, you studied in Iowa, you went to UNI, and so on. Let me ask you this question. Have you ever been to any country outside the United States? And if yes, can you share with us what country and why, if possible. And let's talk a little bit about that experience.
Okay, so I have left the country twice. The first experience was in the summer of 2008. I traveled to Guadalajara, Mexico with my youth group that I grew up with. We did a week-long mission trip with a local church in the inner city of Guadalajara, and we were connected through them through the Baptist General Conference of the United States. And we spent a week rebuilding a small little home into a church unit for their youth group and interacting with their youth group. It was a very rewarding experience, a very humbling experience as well, especially coming from a middle-class white family in Iowa, going to a poorer nation, a poorer city, and helping with that development of their church mission and their economic mission, and being a minority for the first time in my life in an area was a really humbling, eye-opening experience.
So before we move into the second clip, did it change Zach Campbell, that trip? Going there, even though for 1 week, you said, you helped with the church mission, helping the locals in that community. How did it help you in a way, and how did it change you in a way?
I think it really helped me open my eyes to the fact that I might gripe and complain and have all these grievances of how bad I have it, and I don't have it that bad. There's people who have it worse off than I do, and I think that reality was necessary for me at 18. I think that I'd like to think that I was pretty well rounded as a young adult, but I needed that experience of there is life outside of Iowa, there is life outside of the United States. I've been over various regions of the U.S., but never really experienced that experience of being a minority in that situation of severe poverty or depression or other things that you don't get unless you travel outside of what you're comfortable in. And I think for me, that just reinforced that I can't take everything for granted or anything for granted, because I have a really unique opportunity and I have things really good, and I can't lose sight of that.
Well, glad to hear that, and we're very happy that you are sharing that experience with us and with our audience. And you said 2 times, right? And so this is 1 time. So when was the second trip outside, and where?
So the second trip was in March of 2009. So about 8 months later, I went to Tegucigalpa, Honduras with my mom and my sister. My mom's stepsister was a missionary down in Honduras for a long time, had met a local Honduran, married him, have a beautiful family, 3 children, beautiful children. And so we went down to visit them, and that was another really eye-opening experience too, for the same reasons as the Mexico trip, with the economic differences, the hardships, the being the minority for a major second time in my life. And while that was more for personal travel rather than the mission trip, we did get involved with a local youth group, the local church, because my aunt's husband is a pastor. So we got involved with his church and got to learn a lot about the Hispanic community, or not Hispanic, sorry, the Honduran community and the Spanish-speaking community with religion, and learn a lot from their youth group as well about, you know, what they grew up with as a kid in that culture, in that community, in that situation, and those time constraints or economic opportunities or missed opportunities compared to us. It was a very, again, eye-opening experience.
Excellent stories to share with us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Because, you know, as I always say, you know, we are who we are because of what we do on a daily basis or weekly basis. We are who we are because of our relationships with the people around us, whether they are from here or from different countries and different backgrounds and different cultures. And that's really a very, very strong message that you're sharing with us, Zach, and we really appreciate that too. So graduated with your degree,
yes,
and you started to work right away for Eastern Iowa as an adjunct faculty, or did you work somewhere else before?
I had a little time off before I came down here. got my undergrad in 2012 and my master's in 2014, both in organizational communication studies. I took a year off. I'll be honest, when I left academia, I'm like, okay, good, I'm no longer a student, I'm done, I can go away from it, I don't have to be a student anymore, and I just wanted to walk away and try to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So I went back into construction, into landscaping, into odd jobs here and there to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And it took me a while to realize that I missed being a student despite having been one all of my life. So I started applying for jobs in academia, locally and across the state, out of the state, and with some time, with some effort, with some praying, with some heartache, I got to where I'm at now. It took about a year, but I got to start working for Eastern Iowa Community Colleges in the fall 2015 semester.
Okay, so you work for almost 2.5 years as an adjunct faculty member for Eastern Iowa. But I want to go back still, before we move forward, I want to go back to one point that you mentioned. You finished your education, your master's degree, and you didn't have a plan to be in the academia.
I did not.
So you tried different things. Now, do you think the jobs that you tried led you to be in the academia, or those jobs has nothing to do with being in the academia right now?
I think they reinforced coming to academia, coming back to it, that is. I don't know if there's a glaring road sign, arrow saying, Zach, go that way, Zach, go that way, Zach, go that way. But it really made me reevaluate what I had been doing and where I wanted to go with now 6 years of schooling. And while I loved the bosses that I worked for with the landscaping, with the construction, while I got a lot out of my small, short time in a call center, while I got a lot out of these odd jobs, it reinforced that I had a lot of passion for academia that I didn't realize that I had when I was a student. And when I was a research assistant and when I did the graduate teaching, I didn't realize that that's where my passions were until I was gone, had stepped away, and found some other things to occupy my time, some other experiences to make a paycheck, and some things that I wanted to think of, oh, I want to do that with my life, and then realize 3-6 months later, no, that's not what I want to do. So I'm glad for those experiences, and I think they ultimately led me back into academia, but I don't think it was the indicating factor that's like, oh, you have to be an academic. It was more like you're missing something. Academia is something that you're probably missing.
Okay, good enough. Okay, so then you accepted the full-time offer from Eastern Iowa Community Colleges, and this semester is your first semester as second semester as a full-time speech instructor.
Yes.
My question to you, what does it mean to be part of MCC? What does it mean to Zach to be part of Muscatine Community Colleges and coming here every day, working with students, working with your colleagues, co-workers, and so on? So what does it mean to you, Zach?
I'm not going to... See, I was trying to think of some cliche of what that means to me, and I don't really have one other than like the idea of what it means to be part of a family. And I know that might be a little cliche, but it is true. This is a smaller community. This is a smaller community college by comparison to Scott Community College, which is where I was adjuncting for 2.5 years. And it's a more rural area. It's a more close-knit community. This institution has been a significant part of this community for 90 years, whereas Scott Community College for 50 years. So there's a more storied history coming down here as well, where the community is a part of the college is a part of community. To working with the faculty, it's a lot more close-knit. I can stick my head out of my office and see 5 people. I can walk 100 feet one way and be in your office. I can walk 300 feet and be in our boss's office. You don't get that in other institutions, that close-knit relationship that you can develop and just talk about life. You can talk about family, you can talk about your job, you can talk about your kids, you can talk about your whatever, and not really have to leave the confines of your space. And then to the other part, working with students, I think you get a part of that too, and you've been here for a long time, so I think you would agree that the students who are part of this community come here because it's what they know, it's what they know is going to help them better themselves, and they recognize that when they come to us, when they come to each other, when they come to the library for these resources. They're coming to this great institution, and I'm going to learn a lot more. Hopefully I'm here for a long time, but I'm going to learn a lot more.
We'd love to see you here for a long time.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah.
I've learned a lot in my 2 semesters here, and I recognize that motto of our larger institution, that we are the community's college, has really rang true a lot harder for me and a lot more prevalently for me now as a full-timer here than it did as an adjunct in Scott, because I was all over the community up there. Now I'm here, focused, intent, hands-on, and I see that mission that we have of trying to provide the best education that we can to anybody who comes to us, to be that institution for our community. It's so prevalent here, and it's eye-opening, and it's humbling, and it also means that we kind of have some shoes to fill from the people who came before us to make sure that we are still providing that quality experience, that quality education, and I love it. If you would have told me in grad school that this is what I would be doing, I would have looked at you and I said, no, you're crazy. I just want to get my degree. I want to go into business. I want to go into the professional life and just live my life no longer as a student or being a teacher. And I look back now and I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have told my 22-year-old self to do things a little differently, to get here a little faster, to do things a little better. But again, I love it. I really love teaching here, and by extension, the larger EICC community. Excellent.
And we love to have you. And we really, I can speak for myself. I really had a great experience working with you, Zach, and it does make a huge difference when you work with people who really would love to be doing what they are doing, and they are happy and and students are always first in their life, and that's what we do, as a matter of fact, as the community college here in this area. You teach speech. I'm sure some of the students are hesitant about standing up in front of a group of people and deliver a speech. Some people, I would say, comes natural for them. They don't have that fear of standing up and talking in front of people, and some do. How do you deal with that when you have students on both sides of that in a classroom?
I give them some straight up honesty, and I give them some of my own life experiences. Which camera can I look at for this one?
It's up to you. You can look, I think, to camera maybe number 2, I would say, would be a good one.
I'm going to look at 3, actually, because it's the one in front of me. So
okay.
I just look them straight in the eye like I am to this camera right now, and I tell them, hey, I was in your shoes in college. I took public speaking my junior year when I was 21. You're taking it when you're 16, 17, 18, 19, depending on where you are, if you're high school, traditional college, non-traditional college. I was in your shoes, and I did not like this class. I was terrified. I had the anxiety. I had gut aches. I had headaches. I was kind of a procrastinator, so I did a lot of it to myself, but I lived through that. And I made it through it. And then the irony is not lost on me that this is what I love to do. I hated it as a student. I love it as a profession. So if I can do it, if I can get through it, I can help you get through it. I might not make you the perfect speaker. I might not make you comfortable 100%. I might not erase all of your fear, but I will help you get a little better each time. And I think that's what I try to do to connect my students, is tell them, we're all in this together. And the biggest thing, too, is to remind them that I still have fear doing this. I still have some anxiety. I'm still nervous getting up and teaching because I have those same things going through my head. Is my audience going to get it? Do I sound intelligent? Am I just blubbering away? Am I wasting my time? Am I wasting your time? Do I understand what I'm talking about? But at the end of the day, I recognize that I've trained myself to get over that anxiety, I can help those students do the same thing. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears people have outside of paying taxes and spiders and snakes and things that make you go in the night. But in all reality, it's something that we all have to deal with.
Yes.
So knowing that and knowing that most of us still deal with it, even if we are in the position where we have to do it every day, I think helps students recognize, okay, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah.
And so what I try to tell my students is just make yourself this much better every day, this much better every day. And even if you're not perfect, just be that much better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's all it's going to take. And that's all they have to recognize is, and I have to recognize too, just a little better every day, a little better every day.
Yeah, and that's a great advice, to be honest with you, because yes, again, I think building confidence in anyone, whether that person is a student or it could be an employee at a factory or a business firm or even a hospital or wherever. I mean, that confidence needs to be there. And it's hard to build that confidence right away. I mean, it does take some time. You need to go step after step after step before you achieve that. Because, you know, you always hear that. You know, even in my classes, I require students to stand up and give a presentation, and they are always hesitant about, okay, well, what if I do this? What if I make a mistake? It's okay. So it's the building that confidence is a great thing. But in particular for you, because you are dealing with that all the times, I think that's a big challenge too for you and for the students. How about, again, do you work with them on projects? Do you, like, how many speeches they have to give throughout the classroom or the course? Like, I assume different kind of speeches and so on. So can you give us more ideas about that, please?
Okay. Yeah. So the way that I build the course is the student gives 6 speeches over the course of the class. And it starts with a personal narrative. Hey, just tell me about you. Start with a story about you. It doesn't have to be extremely personal. It can be as little detail, as much detail as you want. It can be serious. It can be lighthearted. It can be somewhere in between. Just tell us a story. And with that story, they start breaking down that anxiety a little bit more. They start breaking down that barrier just a little bit more, and they prove to themselves, I can do this. Or at least that's my goal. That's my hope. And then I start them into the research. Their first research speech is they look at famous speeches and they have to analyze it. What'd you like? What'd you not like? What's the main point? Why is the speech given? Where's the importance? Give me your opinion, but back it through factual research as well. And then I build them into a little bit more research-based component with informative speaking. Pick a topic, do some more research, teach us about it. And then that all builds up to a persuasion speech, which all my classes just recently wrapped up with, is pick a topic of your choice, a stance of your choice, argue it based on factual research, not just your opinion, and incorporate all these tips and tricks and tools that you have learned to sell this idea to us. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be that cats are the best pet, that dogs are the best pet, that we need stricter gun control laws, that we need looser gun control laws. So I have students take the very, very serious topics and students take the more lighthearted approach. And I try to allow that freedom in my class within constraints, obviously, to give students their voice, but to also help them recognize that these communication skills are there. And all it takes is just a little bit of pushing to develop them, or a little bit of anxiety to develop them, or just a little bit of pressure to make them recognize they can do it just a little better every day. Because ultimately that's my goal. And I tell a joke too to try to lessen the mood or to try to bring down the anxiety a little bit in the first couple of days of class. Like, here's the importance of communication, here's why we study, you know, it's necessary to our development academically, professionally, relationships. And I have 2 degrees in communication studies. It doesn't make me an expert. If you ask my wife, I'm a terrible communicator. But it's the recognition that we can all do better that makes us be better. And by breaking the ice with I think some well-timed self-deprecating humor and recognizing I'm not great at this either sometimes, but I strive to be better. So if I can strive to be better, here's the tools that I've learned professionally and personally that you can take to just do a little better next time.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, Zach. You know, no matter what we do, we strive to be the best, but it takes a lot really to reach that level. And even when you reach that level, you strive even to be much better
Right.
than that too.
Right.
And yeah, that is definitely a great way of looking at anything, whether it's a speech or research or even working on a small project at home. I
Right.
mean, it's always striving to be the best at what you are doing is, I think, the key for all of us. I know as a new faculty member at MCC, you are getting different support systems. Give us a simple idea about what kind of support system do you have being a new faculty member at MCC or at Eastern Iowa District.
Okay. So you alluded to mentoring in the beginning of this section. That's one of the things that I'm very grateful for is I get to work with you and learn a little bit about this community that is MCC and then the community that is the Muscatine area and the surrounding rural communities that are a part of Muscatine County, Loiza County, and the surrounding areas, and learn more about how we can better impact our students. So I have you as a direct mentor, but then I also have everybody else that is here, because everybody that's here has that story to tell. So it's more informal training than two, because my department is English, myself, and theater and music. So we have the arts all at once together, the six of us, but all six of us have so greatly different life experiences.
Yes.
So I can learn from Jim and Lisa and the English component, which helps my students become better writers. But then I learn about the theatrical component from Alyssa and learn how I can help my students become more confident in their performance. And then I can learn about the music component from Pat because they have to overcome those same anxieties to perform in that aspect. But then I can come to you and learn about the business side of things, or I can go to Paula and why students think the way they do with psychology, and from Chad with video production for this wonderful segment that you guys do. And then there's just the resources across the district that is provided through our faculty development courses that we're doing as new faculty. I can learn from the presidents, learn from Don Doucette and his chancellor's cabinet. I have the luxury of being an employee here for 2.5 years before becoming full-time, so I had the opportunity to learn a lot of these things first, and now we'll get them reinforced as a full-timer. So I'm exceptionally grateful for that, because I think that learning curve is a little shorter for me by comparison to coming in brand new to teaching, at least at this institution. Yes. But I think that that's something that I think I can speak for everybody who's going through the new faculty right now that we're greatly appreciative of, is the one-on-one that we get with you or the other faculty, the exposure to our individual communities, but then also by extension our larger district, because that creates a safety net for us that makes us feel like we belong, and a community to grow as academics within.
Zach, as we are approaching the end of the show, my traditional last question usually is, okay, well, I'm sure we didn't cover everything that you like the audience to know or to hear from you. I'm sure we missed certain things that can be very important for Zach. So if we miss anything, if we didn't ask the right question, and so we'll give you like whatever time you wish to also share that last components or information that you would like to share with us and with our audience.
Okay. I think you hit the nail on the head with your questions, John. I'm pretty much an open book, and I will tell people anything they want to know, within reason, that is. I like to talk about my life within context of questions like this, within class. I like to share my experiences to my students to help them maybe recognize that we're not that different, that you have it within you to be successful, that you just because one door closes, and here's another cliche metaphor, doesn't mean that every other door is shut too. I really enjoy teaching in this community and the opportunity that's been afforded to me. I'm grateful for it because again, had you told me at 22 that this is what I would be doing, I would be like, no, you're wrong. And now I can't really imagine doing anything else because I'm not perfect. I'm not the greatest communicator in the world. I'm not the most competent person in the world sometimes. I make mistakes just like the rest of us. But I've found something that I'm really passionate about, and until that flame is gone, I'm going to run for it. And that's what I try to reinforce to my students is find that thing that you love. You will still have to work. You'll still have to make money. You'll still have to have that grind and those hard opportunities, but find that thing that you can latch onto and take the skills that you learn from us through your jobs, through each other, and just do the best that you can and make the best out of what you have. Because at the end of the day, that's the important part. And the mantra that I try to live by that I learned from my grandfather is if you can lay your head down at night with peace of mind, more often than not, then you're doing okay. If you have money in the bank, you're doing okay. If you have food on your table, you're doing okay. But if you are okay with what you've done at the end of your day, that's it. That's the important part.
That's the important part.
And that's what I try to impart to my students through speech is try to do better every day and try to be okay with those decisions when it's done.
Well, Zach, millions of thanks for the advice. Really, I really enjoyed listening to you today here in our show here because a lot of the statements that you shared with us and the stories that you shared with us can make a huge difference at the end in my life, your life, our students' life, and everybody that we really communicate with or work with or deal with. So millions of thanks again for being my guest on this show today.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate that. I really appreciate every story that you shared with us and with our audience. And as I always say, we always bring the best stories to share with you on this show. So for that reason, I would say, if you have any questions and or comments for me, please call me at 563-288-6064, or you can email me at jdebate@eicc.edu. Till next time, Muscatine, bye-bye.